Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Friends don't lie. Yeah, well, boyfriends lie. All the time.
Hello and welcome to our Season 3 recap of Stranger Things. This is the Stuff and Things podcast. I am Sam. Joining me once again to talk all things Stranger and all things things is my lovely daughter. It's Phoebe.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Phoebes?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Excellent. We've done 2 shows so far, which has been a Season 1 recap, Season 2 recap.
Yep.
It doesn't take a genius to work out this is going to be a Season 3 recap.
Yeah.
And this is safe to say this is your favourite season so far.
Yeah, I've watched it like 4 times now.
Most recently this week.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have got some notes. We're going to run through it. Much like with the last 2 shows, this is designed to be a recap. So if you've never watched the show before, this probably won't be for you. We're not going to go into massive detail. It's literally going to walk you through each episode, reminding you of the key events, reminding you of the characters. So when the season 4 begins on Friday the 27th of May, we will, hopefully, all of us be bang up to date and ready for it. Obviously, we begin with going through the episodes. The title of the episode is a big tradition here on the show. Obviously, because we're doing a season recap, we have 8 episodes in season 3. Now, Phoebes, me and you have made a tradition on this to see how many of these you can possibly remember.
Oh, gosh.
So, there are 8 episodes. Do you think you know any of them, the titles?
I really should. I feel like episode 2 is called like Mall Rats or something.
Perfect. So, episode 2, or chapter 2, is called The Mallrats. Well done.
There's probably one that's like The Flayed or something like that.
Yep. Chapter 5 is actually called The Flayed. Well done. So that's 2 out of 8.
I feel like there's one that's like The Battle of Starcourt Mall.
Excellent. Yeah,
oh my gosh.
The Battle of Starcourt is episode 8, the finale.
Oh,
There's another one that when I tell you, you're going to be gutted.
it's pretty like Secret Evil Russians or something.
No. that would have been really... So I'll run through them, okay? So episode 1 is called Susie. Do you copy?
Oh, for God's sake, yeah.
Episode 2, The Mallrats.
Yeah.
Episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard.
How am I not remembering this?
Episode 4, The Sauna Test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Episode 5, The Flayed. Episode 6, if you'd got this one, I'd have been really impressed, because I don't even know how to say it. E Pluribus Unum.
Oh, yeah, that's like the weird Latin-y one.
Yeah, and episode 7, the one I think you're going to kick yourself over,
Oh.
The Bite.
Oh.
There you go. And then, of course, episode 8, The Battle of Starcourt Mall. So, let's dive in then. Episode 1 opens with June 28th, 1984, and we see communist Russians trying to open the Upside Down. Eleven and Mike are kissing a lot. This is a big development.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, as a father, I'm very much Team Hopper on this one. Hopper's reaction is hilarious.
Yeah, it is, to be fair.
And Hopper goes to get advice from Joyce.
Yeah.
Now, I think the funniest thing about this scene for me is Hopper and Joyce will have 2 very different approaches to parenting, I'd say.
Yeah, very different.
And we kind of get that demonstrated quite nicely in this episode, as Joyce talks about, you should sit down, discuss your feelings.
Heart to heart.
And literally calls it a heart to heart. And he pulls her face like he literally has no idea what she's talking about. We're running through here. So basically, this whole episode's just like kind of like a recap. We're seeing all these different things. So, like I said, the Russians, Soviet Russians, are trying to open the Upside Down. Yeah. We actually see them. Now, it's in Russia. We see them trying to do it, and the lead scientist gets executed for failing.
Yeah.
And it's the first time we see a character who's probably your favourite in Season 3. we see Alexei for the first time.
Yes! Alexei, he is the best character.
What? We'll come to it later, why you think he's the best character. But right now, we see him for the first time, and we see this is happening in Russia, and then obviously the time moves on. We now move on to all of our characters, and basically episode 1 is showing us where they are now.
Yeah.
We see that, like I said, 11 is living with Hopper, as we know. She is now registered as his daughter after the events of the previous seasons. Her and Mike are definitely dating, as we've discussed. Dustin returns from science camp. It's quite a funny scene because they basically, all the kids make it seem like they've forgotten him.
Yeah.
He's radioing non-stop, like, I'm returning to base camp, I'm returning to base camp. And no one's replying. Yeah. When he does finally get there, Elle uses her abilities to move all of his toys.
Yeah, and he, like, follows them throughout the house.
To be fair, if you had those abilities, you're a similar age to Elle. If you had those abilities, do you think that's the sort of prank you'd pull on your friends?
I mean, yeah, but I'm surprised she's not already done it by now, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, he was at science camp, so now he's back. And she's obviously got a greater control over her abilities now as well, which is kind of great. So we do see that, and we do see a hilarious scene where he reacts by spraying with hairspray.
It's the hairspray that Steve recommended, Fawcett.
Yeah, Farrah Fawcett,
that
Steve. And he sprays it in poor Lucas's eyes.
Yeah.
Which
and
again,
continues to spray it.
And continues while screaming. It was hilarious. It's one of the funniest scenes, I think, in the whole season or the whole show. It's great.
Maybe.
Funniest, I think.
One of the funniest.
One of definitely. We then catch up with, like I said, the other characters. We see Steve is now working at Starcourt Mall. Starcourt Mall is opened in the area, and Scoops Ahoy is where he's working, slinging ice cream, as he puts it. Jonathan and Nancy are working at a local newspaper, the Hawkins Post. Billy, we catch up with again, and he's now a lifeguard at a local swimming pool. We see that we're walking our way through, so yeah, this is something quite interesting, actually. We see what we think left Will at the end of season 2. You remember he was like throwing up those different... No, sorry, that's season 1.
That's season 1.
Yeah, season 2, when they force that out of him, like this dark shadow out of him, we see that that's still there. It's still around.
Because they closed the gate on it.
They did, but it was dormant until the Russians have tried to open the gate again. And now it's awake, and it's exploding rats. That was a gross scene. We find out why that is later on. It's still not a good thing. Joyce notices that her fridge magnets are not working all of the time, which leads her down a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We also know that the Starcourt Mall opening has basically killed the high street. Where Joyce works and things like that, there's like nobody there.
Yeah, because everyone's gone to the mall instead. Yep,
exactly right. We see, going back to Billy, we see Mrs. Wheeler. Mrs. Wheeler is more prominent in this season.
She's definitely
very much a background character in the others, and quite interesting. I don't know if you saw this. The season 4 posters have been revealed by Stranger Things. She's actually one of the posters, which makes me wonder if she's going to have a bigger role in season 4. Could be quite interesting, because the thing I find quite funny is Joyce is aware of everything that's gone on.
Yeah.
Hopper's aware.
But pretty much no one else is.
All the other parents.
Because as far as they're aware, there was a chemical leak in the lab.
Exactly, yeah. And that's it. And all the other parents are just kind of like, where's our kids? I don't know. So it'd be interesting to see if she plays more of a part. But she's there, and Billy's flirting with her outrageously. Yeah. All of the mums are kind of eyeing Billy like eye candy, as they would. He actually arranges to try and meet her later on, to talk about, I think he says he's going to do some private swimming lessons. I think that's definitely what he had in mind. Definitely. Nothing else whatsoever. And we actually see she changes her mind. She's going to go to meet Billy, but then she sees her husband and the baby sat there, and she realizes, like, snaps out of it. She's being silly. Yeah. Billy is on his way there, and something hits his car.
But we don't see what it is.
No. Billy, something hits his car, and he then gets out, and we actually notice the location where he is where we saw this creature that was in Will.
Yeah.
And before you know it, Billy is grabbed and dragged down inside the place.
Bye-bye, Billy.
Bye-bye, Billy. To be honest with you, it's quite an interesting thing with this episode, because I don't think any of us like Billy at all. Billy's not a
No,
good
not
guy.
at this point.
No, he's not a good guy. But it's kind of interesting that, you know, they pick him to be the one that's grabbed, because if it's someone that we all care about, it's a big, impactful scene. But being Billy, I'm kind of like, bye, Billy.
Yeah.
Never mind. Laters, dude. The only other thing from episode 1 really of massive note I think we ought to talk about is the fact that Dustin claims to have a girlfriend, and her name is Susie. Claims. It's a big claim. It's a big claim.
Yeah, and he's got this tower thing that he's created, and he talks about how like amazing it is.
Yeah. So basically, whilst on science camp, he's met a girl. I think that is very unlikely for science camp anyway. But he builds a radio antenna, which he calls Cerebro, which is an X-Men reference, which you wouldn't get. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
And Cerebro, they take it to the tallest point in Hawkins to set it up, and he's there with everyone who's helped him carry it up there. Mike and Eleven slope off, saying she's got a curfew. Gradually, everyone dwindles away. He's trying to reach Susie, but it's just him there in the end. Even Will walks off after having a strange tingly feeling in his neck.
Yeah, he walks up the hill and he goes, and then he like caresses his neck.
Yeah. So episode 2, again, we're marching our way through. Billy is now, I mean, he's basically like Will was in season 2.
So
Billy's
you
got
can
this in
tell
him.
something's not right.
Yeah, and he's really struggling at the pool. I mean, it's sort of demonstrated. I mean, if you've watched season 2, you know he likes it cold.
Yeah, and he's very sweaty.
He is really struggling at the pool. I mean, it's a hot summer. It's July in Hawkins in America. He has Mrs. Wheeler goes to the swimming pool, sees him, and obviously wants to talk to him about why she didn't show up.
Yeah.
As far as she's aware, you know, she just didn't show up, and he's a bit angry about that. She goes to confront him, and Billy sees in his head killing her. Like,
yeah, but we don't know that it's in his head, and I'm like, oh my god, Miss Wheeler, and then it like snaps out, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the way they do it is like it happens, and then you realise, no, actually, Billy's seeing that. Now, I think this is the first glimpse of us realising that Billy's a bit of an ass, but he's not evil.
Yeah.
Because once he sees that image, it freaks him out, and he gets away. He just says to her, "Get away from me." Now, she'll take that as he's angry, but in reality, Billy's saving her, and he goes off by himself. Unfortunately, one of the other lifeguards isn't so lucky. A lifeguard goes to find him, finds him sort of in the shower, trying to cool off, and at that point, Billy can't control it, and he does attack her.
Yeah.
Which is, at this moment in time, we're not entirely sure why. We do learn why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he does take her to the Mind Flayer. I mean, I'm trying to sort of walk through it. He takes her to the Mind Flayer by literally knocking her out.
Yeah, essentially.
And he takes her there, and it's a really creepy scene where he's kind of like, don't worry, you know.
Just stay still. It'll all be okay.
Yeah, and that's something quite creepy about people saying stuff like that calmly, I think.
Yeah.
You know? If he's like screaming and shouting, it's an angry scene and
it's
everything's
like
frantic.
When it got to a point in Will where it was completely the Mind Flayer, like when like it got too hot, it triggered it.
Yeah.
So it's like he's been triggered to do that. So it's not Billy like at all anymore.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. So it is a case of he's fighting it, but basically when the thing wants to take charge, he has no...
Yeah, because Will said in season 2 it will only take charge when it wants to or when it needs to.
Yeah, which we did see, because Will was communicating quite well, but then all of a sudden he acted as the spy, didn't he?
Yeah.
We see Nancy and Jonathan following up on a story. So basically they get a phone call to the Hawkins Post. Let's face it, this is 1980s America, small town America. Nancy's a woman in the workplace trying to become a journalist, and all the men there are assholes to her. They're not good peoples, but unfortunately, I do think this very representative of the time. I really do think that.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring in our American expert at this point, because Alfie is the man. Alfie's the guy who's going to let us know. Alfie, Is that, do you think, a correct depiction of the time, knowing you grew up there? Or would you say that actually, no, that was exaggerated, or maybe not even as extreme?
What is going on, Sam and Phoebe? Please excuse my voice as I'm still recovering from the latest go around of COVID. So let's jump in because there's a lot of questions this time. Question 1. In season 3, we see Nancy face quite severe sexism in the workplace as a young woman trying to become a reporter. Do you feel that that was fair of the time and accurate, exaggerated? No, that was pretty spot on. I mean, definitely some liberty taken for humor, I think, but yeah, that's pretty accurate. Sadly, it's still accurate in some places.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. I mean, it's safe to say then, with that going on, she picks up the phone when she's told not to.
Yeah.
She hears about a story which she then follows up on, which she's told not to.
Yeah.
And the story is an older lady who lives on the edge of town, and she basically says she thinks there's rats that have got rabies because they're acting strange.
They're acting strange. Mrs. Driscoll?
Mrs. Driscoll, I think you're right. When Nancy and Jonathan investigate, they basically find that this rat is eating compost. The
And
chemicals,
fertilizer.
So it's trying to get. I mean, it's very odd behaviour, obviously.
Because
Now,
that would, like, bye-bye rat. But
they're not kind of taking her seriously, I don't think. I think Jonathan's kind of rolling his eyes a little bit. Nancy's trying to find a story here if there is one, but not entirely convinced there is one. So then we get the situation where she says, I caught one of the little suckers.
Yeah.
And they then observe this rat in a cage that is going crazy. It is not behaving normally. Now, Nancy follows up and basically rings a few places who've said, oh, actually, yeah, we've had, like, fertilizer ripped open. We think
Stuff's
it might
gone
be rats.
missing. Chemicals.
Yeah,
and that.
chemicals have gone missing. We think it could be rats. We don't know. So she wants to leave. Now, Jonathan leaves with her, and just after that happens, the rat explodes.
Like we saw at the beginning.
And forms a kind of mushy gloop. And it falls out of the cage, but is moving. It is intelligent. It is.
Yeah, it's alive.
It is alive, and poor Mrs. Driscoll, basically.
Yeah.
Hopper celebrates keeping Eleven and Mike apart. It's a very funny scene. Hopper basically threatens Mike.
It goes completely off the kind of heart-to-heart plan.
He goes completely off the heart-to-heart plan, but I personally feel absolutely justified, and everything he said was brilliant.
I'll see about that.
As your father, I'm telling you, he was correct. Anyway, he's celebrating, and it's hilarious because he feels like he's won some major victory. We also see Hopper meeting the mayor for the first time. There's protests outside, so we get to meet Hawkins' mayor. He's a bit of an arrogant ass. You can tell Hopper doesn't like him.
Yeah, but
he does point out that these people are protesting without a permit, breaking the law, so Hopper has to go and break it up, which he does reluctantly. He arranges a date with Joyce.
going back to the mayor thing, we do see like someone walk past, which they focus on, but not massively.
It's a really good point. In the very opening scene of episode 1 in Russia, we see the lead scientist be killed, and he's killed by a very large Soviet soldier.
Yeah.
That same guy, now dressed in black leathers, basically looking like the Terminator, which is a reference you don't know, but it's a very, very big 80s movie.
Yeah.
Walks past Hopper, and Hopper kind of clocks him and goes back. So there is a very large Russian in Hawkins. This is our first kind of confirmation they are there. And he was in with the mayor. Yes, good spot, Phoebe. Well done. That's very important. Joyce and Hopper do have a kind of date arranged because Hopper went to her when he was celebrating all happy. He shows up for his date and
Joyce doesn't.
Joyce doesn't.
But
where is Joyce? Why
she's
isn't
not
Joyce
ditching.
there?
She's not ditching.
No. But why isn't Joyce there? Do you remember?
She's like, oh my god, my magnets. Oh no, my magnets. Because like they fell off at her store.
Yeah.
They've fallen off at her house. So she's gone to Will's science teacher.
Yep.
Mr. Clark.
You are not wrong.
And then he does this experiment in his basement
Yeah.
and explains it all.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So she goes to the science teacher to try and get an explanation of why it could be happening. He obviously says, well, there's no way it could, but okay. Let's imagine
Theoretically.
let's imagine someone's drawing an enormous amount of power, and we have seen a power cut in amongst everything so far. But imagine it's drawing this enormous amount of power, and then it creates this magnet, and then that would change the magnetic field, and that would cause this to happen. She, of course, knows all about the lab, knows all about this teacher doesn't. So her head's now spinning. She thinks something's going on.
Yeah.
Hopper, all he knows is he got stood up and he grabs a great big bottle of wine and leaves very, very drunk. Yeah. I think it's a great time also to bring in another question to Alfie at this point, because we were looking at Starcourt Mall and there's a cinema complex there and stuff. In the 80s, and again, kid, I'm sorry, you won't know this.
Okay.
So this is for the older listeners. In the 80s in the UK, we didn't really have shopping malls like that. This was kind of a America only thing at this time, and then it came here later on. Yeah. So Alfie, by the time it got here, things had obviously changed, but one of the things we see in this is an 11 and Max go shopping, which we're about to talk about a little bit now, but they go into basically a live photo booth. So there's a guy there, a photographer there, taking pictures. Alfie, mate, is that a thing? Was that a thing?
Question 2. In the Starcourt Mall, we see Max and 11 go to a photo studio. Now, we never had malls like this in the 80s here. Oh, I feel so bad for you. So was this a real thing in American malls at the time? Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Glamour shots, the whole thing. That was a real deal. I'm talking like real deal. Yeah, that's... I don't miss them, but I do miss them.
Thanks, man. It's good having an American on standby for this. It's very helpful. But as I said, 11 and Max go shopping. So 11's confused because Mike's basically ditched her at this point. We know this because Hopper's threatened him, and he's made up a story that his grandma's ill. Yeah. 11 can see through that. Mike's not a good liar.
No, he's not.
Mike and Lucas get together and start having a conversation about, what do I do? And he's like, she's mad at me. He's like, oh, we'll go to the mall, we'll get her a gift.
Yeah.
So Lucas, by the way, at this point, Will just wants to play D&D.
Yeah.
Will's just like, come on, guys, why are we focusing on girls? Girls, we should be playing D&D. But no, the three of them drag themselves off to the mall. What they don't realise is that 11 is breaking some rules. 11 and Max have also gone to the mall on a shopping spree. You raised a very good question about this when you asked me, who's paying?
Yeah.
We don't actually see. We're going to assume Max.
Yeah, because, Billy's car and everything, we kind of guessed that
the family must have some cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy's driving a pretty decent car for that time, that era, his age. So yeah, we're going to go with the fact the family's got some money, so Max is on a spending spree. They get there and it's actually a fun scene, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very 80s. The two of them trying on clothes, the photo booth I just mentioned with Alfie, and just stuff like that. It is funny. It is good. And they're having a really great time, and then they go to leave. Now, anyone who listened to the intro to this will hear the line that Max says to 11 in this episode of, she said, friends don't lie. And Max says, yeah, but boyfriends lie all the time. And they actually see them there. So 11 and Max are leaving, and they look across, and they bump into Mike. And we get the audio, which should be on our outro, which you're going to get to hear, but we find it hilarious. I dump your ass.
And she walks off.
And it's a triumphant walk off as well. It's as cold as ice plays. It's pretty awesome. I feel bad for Will at this point, because I think it's worth pointing out, Will just wants to hang out, play with his friends, and have fun. Now, everyone's growing up, and I think there's something really easy to forget at this point, is Will has been, in through hell for a year.
He's missed loads of his childhood.
I think 18 months, 2 years basically of just in and out of dealing with the lab and all these things, and everyone's growing up, and that's fine. but he kind of wants to still be a bit of a kid for a while. And you can see
Yeah.
that. He's just kind of like, I just want to sit with my friends. I really don't want to be going off to the mall or anything like that. Please, can we just play some D&D? And it's kind of causing a little bit of friction because I think Dustin felt a little bit pushed out as well.
Yeah, although we do notice that he's not with them at this point.
Well, Dustin's not with them because Dustin has gone to say hello to Steve. Probably my
Steve.
favourite friendship in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why he goes to him is because when he got left on his own at the end of episode 1 with Cerebro, he starts to hear Russian. Now, Dustin hears this, realising it's not English, assuming it's Russian, and I can only explain this to you, kid, at the time. In the 80s, the paranoia in the world...
between America and Russia,
Oh,
particularly.
massively. And again, this is and we're using him a lot
Yeah.
on this, but this is a perfect time for me to say, Alfie, how big was the paranoia? How massive was it for America, Russia? So, for example, Dustin's using Cerebro, he listens to it, man. How likely was it that he would then go into a form of, oh no, it's the communists? What was it like in the 80s, the US, Soviet Union? Let us know.
Question 3. The show in season 3 has a major focus on Soviet Russia. How was the paranoia? Did people really think that there were Soviet spies around every corner? Not necessarily Soviet spies, but there was definitely a underlying culture that existed of, are they commies, right? Like that was the big thing, it's a bunch of commies. And, we definitely had a concern that there was Soviet spies. I think that one might have been exaggerated a touch.
Thanks, man. That's brilliant. So yeah, it's good to have the expert on hand. But we do see him go to Steve with it. Steve's his older friend, so it makes sense. We have an hilarious scene where they pretend to kill each other with lightsabers, and we get to meet properly this time Robin, who works with Steve.
Yeah.
And she's just like, how many children are you friends with? Which is hilarious. Because, of course, the funny thing is Steve and the kids have been through something really traumatic.
Yeah.
So they do have a bond and a friendship, which to someone else looking from the outside probably wouldn't understand.
Bit weird.
Yeah, bit weird. But yeah, they're trying to translate this Russian, and Robin helps them. Robin's very fluent in, I
she
think,
says she's
4
like
languages.
bored and everything.
And yeah, she is bored. I mean, they literally stood there slinging ice cream, as she puts it.
Yeah.
And she really does help, and they actually manages to sort of work out a few words. And then, but there's on this audio, there's like some music playing in the background.
And it's all Steve can focus on.
And it's all Steve can focus on. And they're kind of mocking him a little bit for that, because,
Yeah.
it's like anything. But as they're leaving Starcourt at the end of the day, Steve realises where he's heard the music before. And the music playing is actually from a ride in
the mall.
Starcourt Mall. Bum, bum, bum. I mean, as we kind of are working it out, aren't we? Because we saw the Russians try and open the gate in Russia. We know Elle closed it here in Hawkins. We know the Russians there because we saw the guy at the mayor's office.
Yeah.
But now we're hearing transmissions and also Starcourt Mall.
So where the Russians,
Yeah,
they're
where are they?
are they actually in Russia?
Yeah, or are they at the mall?
Yeah.
Let's go to the mall. Episode 3 opens with 11 spying on Mike using her powers. I gotta be honest with you, I was a teenage boy once. The idea of a girl being able to do that is terrifying. And she catches Mike and Lucas and that lot basically farting, belching, and describing girls as a different species. Which
emotion, not logic.
Yeah, which Elle parrots to Max, and I think Lucas is going to get his ass kicked next time they see each other. They're also playing a game of Spin the Bottle, where they've written out names of different people, and they spin the bottle, and whoever it lands on, Elle's going to try and spy on.
Yeah.
She writes down, Max has done that, and she's written down her brother Billy, and we as the audience are kind of like, uh-oh, this isn't good. And Elle does. It does land on Billy. She does try and do it, and she does see something that freaks her out.
Which Max does try and dismiss as, it's just my
Yeah.
brother, he's really weird.
Yeah, he's
Don't-
really weird. If he's on a date, just get out of there. But Elle's, and we see it as well, obviously, does look bad. It does look
Yeah.
like Billy has basically killed that lifeguard.
But we do know, about Billy taking
Yeah,
the girls.
we do. We know that Billy has basically been flayed. Elle is just freaked out. So those two are now investigating that. They go as far as finding out who the lifeguard is. It's Heather from the pool.
Yeah.
They follow up on that and they go to Heather's house. But when they get there, Billy's there, and so's Heather, and everything's okay. And Billy acting intense is not unusual. But he's like, "Hi, Max, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were out in the rain," and excuses why they're there. Eleven's really confused. But one of the moments in this is Billy sees 11, and you actually get a moment of realization of the Mind Flayer recognizes her.
Yeah.
So the Mind Flayer recognizes it was her who closed the gate, and really focuses on her. And Billy quite intensely is like, "Oh, you're Elle, are you?" And really, really focused in.
But we also noticed that the dad, the father of Heather, is the guy that Nancy's boss. Nancy's boss?
Yeah, you say we noticed this. I didn't. I was shockingly with this, but Phoebe noticed. So yeah, the Heather's parents, the father is the editor-in-chief of the Hawkins Post, who is Nancy and Jonathan's
So it's all
boss.
linking, and if it's going to go the way we think it's going to go, this is going to spread quickly.
Yeah, it is starting to spread. And sure enough, at the end of this episode, Billy and Heather do attack the mum and the dad and take them to the Mind Flayer as well. So, like you said, it is, continuing. In this episode, we also get to see, Nancy's not given up on the Driscoll story. They go to see her again, and when they get there, it's, open. They're not really sure what's going on, and they find her eating the fertilizer like the rat was.
Like the rat was.
Really, really messed up. And that's kind of the end of the episode, I think.
Yeah,
that
they
was.
call the ambulance.
Yeah, they call the police and the ambulance. It really messed up. Joyce goes to Hopper to explain why she wasn't there. Well, actually, no, she's forgotten about the date altogether. Yeah. So she's gone to Hopper to talk about the magnets and the conversation she had. And she wants to go to the lab, Hawkins' lab, because she's convinced something's going on there again. Hopper is very cross about being stood up. He gives some serious attitude about it. But then he does take it to the Hawkins lab. We get a really sad scene where she relives the moment that Bob died. So that's quite sad. And they go into the Hawkins lab. They look around. There's nothing there. I mean, the lab is completely closed down.
However,
dun dun dun. However,
see a security camera beat round and follow them.
We do, and we also then see someone is there
and attack Hopper.
Yeah, Hopper is attacked, and we see he doesn't get a good look, but we see it's the big Russian guy who was with them there.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. The Terminator beats the crap out of Hopper. He basically leaves when Joyce arrives as well, and he goes off on a motorbike, which Joyce, realizes, spots. 11 and Max, like we said, they followed their arc in this. Steve and Dustin are at the mall looking for evil Russians, but it's actually Robin who cracks the code. So Steve and Dustin continue to be a comedy double act, really. Yeah. They follow one guy with a duffel bag. He turns out to just be an aerobics instructor.
Yeah.
But Robin does crack the code, and she works out what it is, and it is all related to Starcourt Mall.
It's like the silver cat feeds when blue meets yellow in the west. A trip to China sounds nice.
Perfect, and it basically, you look around the mall and it all clicks into place, and there's a clock, and then one of the hands is blue, one of them's yellow. So at a set time, these things will happen. So she does crack the code, which is mightily impressive.
Yeah.
There you go, Robin. Episode 4, we see Mrs. Driscoll's now in the hospital, taken away. The police officer there, one of Hopper's guys, basically says, why what the hell happened to Nancy, who obviously called it in. 11 is confused by her visions. She's still really freaked out by what she saw. We saw that Heather's parents are now controlled by the Mind Flayer. Jonathan and Nancy basically get dragged into his office. So he's been Mind Flayed, the editor, and he is now doing the work really to cover up what's going on.
Yeah.
So Nancy and Jonathan are wanting to investigate this because they're like, look, something big's going on, Mrs. Driscoll, and he fires them, both of them. And then we have a big argument between Jonathan and Nancy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the argument, Jonathan and Nancy? Do you think both of them have got... Because Jonathan, he is in the wrong a little bit, but then at the same time, she did literally get him fired.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of... They do say some harsh stuff to each other.
Yeah. I also feel like the argument's a bit petty. They're like, oh, well, I guess we're not alike anymore. And then she turns away dramatically to the window. Like,
Well, it is dramatic, but then
yeah.
she's quite dramatic. You don't really like Nancy, do you?
No, I hate Nancy.
See, I don't know. I don't mind Nancy. We do get to meet... We've seen a couple of times already. We saw her in season 2. We've seen her a couple of times in this. But for the first time, we get to really meet Lucas's little sister, Erica. And the reason why we get to meet him is because the team at Scoops Ahoy are trying to work out how to
and
get
she
to
just wants to like take advantage of their like
free
company
ice cream.
policy.
Yeah, the free ice cream taster policy. She's there to eat it all. But they need a small person to go through the vents to go and open this door. There she is. And they actually... Dustin explains the whole thing to her about evil Russians. Yeah. He thinks there's a code they've cracked. They need to open up a door.
But you can't spell America without Erica.
It is brilliant. She's hilarious. I love her. She's brilliant.
Very underrated character in this season.
I don't know. I'm guessing we're going to see more of her again in season 4 because
we've got to. Cause she's been introduced to everything.
Yeah, it's so much fun now. So much fun. We get a really nice moment between Nancy and her mum. I think is worth mentioning because again, her mum in season 1 and 2 is really in the background, whereas in this she has that moment with Billy, and now she's had this really great scene with Nancy because. I think older teenagers in their early 20s and their mother, I mean, she's basically been conflicted quite a lot, like they've been angry at each other a lot. But this scene was really nice because she got to sort of, her mum gave her strength back. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like really reinforce, like, no, if you believe this is right, go and finish the story and then sell it to a national paper. And then how stupid will they feel at this stupid little Hawkins Post if a story this big in their own backyard by you went to somebody else? And it gives her the courage and the conviction to go and follow up on it. So she does. She heads back to the hospital to meet Mrs. Driscoll to try and find out more information. Will, Lucas, Mike, Max and 11 are tracking Billy and they head to the pool. Basically they are now convinced, 11, and she's convinced the others because Mike's getting that Will's getting that feeling like I think he's back, and 11 has now convinced everyone I think Billy's been mind flayed. So they want to put it to the test, and the way they plan to test it is to put him in the sauna with a view of try and burn it out of him, like
they did with Will at the end of season 2.
You got it, yeah. They do manage to trap Billy in the sauna, and Billy's going crazy.
And instead of burning it out of him, they just trigger the mind.
They do trigger the mind flayer, and it's actually Max. I mean, Max. I think it's a really strange relationship between the two of them. I think Max loves him, and clearly Billy hasn't always been nasty to her. There must have been instances where Billy was a good guy to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't care. But she does, and we see that. We really do see it, and I think again it's interesting that she's getting close, and he's kind of like surrendered. He's hung down on the floor. He's looking really defeated, really upset. But actually, you then see his hand reach out to pick up like a kind of like a broken bit of tile.
Yeah.
And he uses that to smash the glass. We do get a little bit of a heads up because again, Will gets that feeling like he goes, he's here, and they all scream at Max to get away from the door.
Yeah.
He
just
bursts.
like he gets activated.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, whilst this is happening at the hospital, Mrs. Driscoll's heart rate goes through the roof.
At the same time when
At the
Billy's-
exact same time that Billy, and she's going like shaking, going crazy, and Nancy's witnessing this. She's actually seeing this happen. We then see like I said, Billy. We basically get a fight scene between Billy and the whole gang. It's
You
11.
say whole gang.
Yeah,
11.
11. I mean, they do try. They get their ass kicked, a couple of them.
Yeah.
But 11 stands toe-to-toe with him and manages to throw him through a wall.
Ow.
Yeah, big out. And the gang get away. But yeah, we then get an end scene where Billy's with Heather and she's kind of cleaning up his injuries.
Yeah.
And then we see a whole room full of people who have been flayed.
Yeah.
And we're looking at maybe 40, maybe more people there. So, like you said, it has spread fast.
Yeah.
Episode 5 begins with Hopper and Joyce. Basically, they've gone to see the mayor. Hopper's punched the mayor in the face, which was hilarious.
The secretary's like, oh my god.
Yeah, and Joyce takes the phone. She said, "Who are you going to call? The police?" And Hopper is the police. They uncover.
Although, earlier in the scene, technically the mayor fires him as chief.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but you know, technically.
he's corrupt. He's corrupt. It's fine. In like any of the other police are going to mess with Hopper anyway. To be honest with you, I think they're all terrified of him. So they uncover what appear to be sort of like hidden labs all around like old farm buildings. They go there, they open up this door which is like hidden under a bed, and down there is a guy and a scientist. The guy looks like a technician, another guy who's a scientist, and we see the scientist is a character we've met before.
It's Alexi!
So come on in, kid, what is it? Why do you like Alexi so much?
Well, at this point we don't really see it.
No.
But he's just so nice. He's so, like, pure.
Is he
like,
cute and adorable?
Yeah.
Because he watches Looney Tunes and likes Cherry.
Yeah, it's the way he, like, slaps the drink. He, like, over the... I don't know. I just...
You like Alexi, okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Nancy and Jonathan team up with 11 and all the group. They basically get together and all have got different pieces of the story. All of them, like, she's worked out that Mr. Driscoll's related to everything that's gone on in the past.
Because she was all like, I want to go back.
Yeah, and everyone, they get together. They're all on the same page now. So that whole group are one section again. Steve and Dustin are trapped in a lift. They've managed to get into the lift thanks to Erica.
Yeah.
They've gone down into this
Steve,
massive...
like Robin,
Yeah,
Erica and Dustin.
they've gone down into this massive Russian base underneath Starcourt Mall.
And they said how it, like, dropped them halfway to hell or something.
Yeah, it is literally a massive, massive drop. It's insane. And this structure is huge. So basically the whole of Starcourt Mall appears to have been built purely on the basis to hide a Russian base.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, but also the sort of thing that at that point was something that everyone was paranoid about. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
So the show's kind of steered into that at the time. We see, like I said, we kind of get these different arcs and these different stories. Hopper takes Alexi hostage.
Yeah.
So Hopper, Joyce, and Alexi are on the run from this lab. The car gets shot up by the Russian Terminator, which is going to be his official name. So the car, they have to ditch Hopper's vehicle.
Chief car.
You got it. And they go to a garage. Alexi, it looks like Alexi's trying to run away, but he doesn't.
Not. He's literally finding them food in a garage.
He does.
That's why he's so amazing.
And he does look very happy that they have cherry Slurpees.
Yeah.
That's what he wants. He wants a cherry Slurpee. They go in there, and then Hopper does a thing which is a trope in US TV and films. To the point I have to wonder, does this really happen? And if it does it happen to the frequency that it appears to? So, Alfie, I'm coming to you, buddy. Our US 80s expert that you are, I need to know, is our police officers commandeering your vehicles every day like it appears in the movies?
Question 4. Based on movies and TV shows, including Stranger Things Season 3, it seems police in America commandeered vehicles a lot. Has this ever happened to you or anyone you know? Seems a big problem. No, it's never happened to me or anyone that I know of. It was not, that one was definitely exaggerated. In just movies in general. Like I don't even remember the last time I saw a news story about a cop commandeering a vehicle. So yeah, I love it though. I've kind of always pulled up to a gas station and been like, maybe this is the time a cop comes and commandeers my vehicle because I want him to destroy it because I need a new car. Anyway, guys, that's all. I hope that helps. Hope that brings some clarity, some American perspective. Hope everyone is well. And until next time, that's a wrap.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, we've kind of got these different arcs now then. So in this episode, we know a lot of this is interlinked.
Yeah.
But we're getting different things.
But
so
we don't know how it's linked.
You got it. So we got the different groups. Steve, Dustin, Erica, and Robin are one team. They're investigating the Russians under the Starcourt Mall. Yeah. We then have Nancy, Jonathan, 11, Max, Lucas, Mike, and Will. That's another team, and they're investigating Mrs. Driscoll going to the hospital where she is.
Flayed and
they're working that aspect out. Joyce and Hopper with Alexei head to Murray, another character that you like.
But something funny that I also like is when they take the vehicle, Hopper's like, he's killed many children.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. He may look innocent, but he's one of the most dangerous criminals in the world. He's killed many children.
When they commandeer the vehicle, he basically says that, sorry. I'm just trying to remember, because Alexi's basically slurping this slushy, smiling, and Hopper's trying to convince this guy he's taking the car off, he's killed many, many children. And then when Joyce gets there, he's like, yeah, he's wanted for tax fraud.
Yeah.
It's like, no, and child killings. We then get a scene where Steve and everyone, they get discovered by the Russians, as they would in the base. Steve and Robin hold out to try and allow Dustin and Erica to get away, but they are captured. However, just before that, Steve wins a fight.
Whoa!
I know, right? This is a big moment for Steve. Big deal. This is a big moment. He beats up a Russian. Unfortunately, the Russian then does wake up and calls the guards on them, but he did definitely win a fight, and Dustin really makes a point of saying, Steve, you want to fight?
Yeah.
We then get a hospital scene where only two people are allowed to visit Miss Driscoll. So Nancy and Jonathan go up. A bit of an awkward elevator ride where they apologise to each other.
Aww.
And it's nice, and they're back together. They're fine. They're cool. When they get to the room, we then have, she's not there.
Yeah,
but two of the people who work at Hawkins Post are, and they are clearly flayed, and they are coming for him to attack him. We hoped you'd come back, I think is what they say. We then have fight scenes between Jonathan and one of them, and Nancy and another. It's a very horror style. They're in this abandoned part of the hospital, or a part of the hospital is being refitted, and
it's
the
quite
lights are flickering.
Because they're in this part of the hospital that's really dodgy, but on the first floor, it's completely normal.
Yeah.
So all this is going on upstairs.
Yeah, no one has a clue.
Although Will does get a bit of a feeling.
That's right at the end. Will does get that feeling of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, we then get the situation where, of course, Will is they want to try and go. The lights are flickering, and 11 realizes as well. But up to that point, and I did want to put it to you, and I think we talked about it when we watched the episode. Did you notice that these are still two people? Now I know Nancy and Jonathan realize they've been flayed, but surely they saved Will.
Yeah. They
know that it can be burnt out of them.
Yeah.
Neither of them try and save these guys. They literally go for the kill shots.
I mean, I think they're pretty miffed at those people already.
I know, but there's being angry at people for being a bit of arseholes, and then there's literally smashing their brains out or stabbing them in the heart.
I mean...
or the throat.
I'd rather stab someone than be stabbed myself.
Yeah.
And flayed.
I hear... No, I'm not saying they're in the wrong and they're defending themselves. I just think it's worth pointing out that the two of them went for kill shots,
Yeah.
and and there was no mercy from them
No.
at all.
But it forms this blob.
It does. The two of them then dissolve, and it is gross. And the two blobs then form into a creature.
It's like what
or
we
a
saw
beast.
happen to the rats.
Exactly, but this is
On a bigger scale.
like a 6 foot, 8 foot sort of monster creature, and it screams, and that's the end of that episode. We go straight into episode 6, where the creature's trying to kill Nancy. It's like hunting her down. It finally gets her, but then 11 rocks up, and 11 fights the creature and beats the crap out of it.
Chucks it out.
And literally throws it out of a window, and then you see it all dissolve into a drain and get
But
away.
Nancy locked the door and it slid under the door to get in.
Yeah. Which,
So
again,
clearly-
very horror film vibes.
So clearly it's quite intelligent.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, and it's being controlled like a hive mind, so all
Yeah.
of the flayed and everything are all
So it's
interlinked.
almost still like a host in a way.
You got it, yeah. And it is really freaky. As we said, Dustin and Erica were trapped down there, but they do get away thanks to Steve and Robin. They are taken prisoner, and Steve gets the crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
Like, really quite badly. And then the pair of them, like, they don't believe... I mean, it is kind of funny. The Russians are like, how did you find us? Who do you work for? And he's like, I work for Scoops Ahoy. Like, you know,
Yeah,
look
would
at
I
the
just
uniform.
wear this if I
Yeah.
wasn't?
But they obviously don't believe him. They think he's just like some amazing secret agent who's lying. So they drug him to get the truth. They drug him and Robin to get the
But
truth.
the truth is what they're
The
literally
truth
telling.
is literally what they're
But
saying.
something funny, he literally tells them Dustin's full name.
He does literally tell them Dustin's
So-
full name because he's an absolute numpty. But yeah, Hopper is trying to question Alexei via Murray, who can speak Russian. It's kind of funny because Alexei's giving Hopper a lot of attitude. He basically says he'll talk for a Burger King, and then Hopper doesn't get him a cherry drink.
Gets some strawberry.
He gets him strawberry, and it's hilarious because Hopper is kind of calls his bluff and like throws him out. It's right, fine, leave if you want. And we get a moment where we're thinking he's actually going to leave. He's actually going to run. But the reality is, and this is true from history, the Soviets treated their own people far worse than they did anybody else. So he's probably thinking to himself, if I help these people, I can stay in America. I'd be safe. I'd be free of this constant threat of being killed.
And
like,
if he goes back, he'll be classed as a traitor.
yeah, and Hopper says that, and Hopper, although there's a moment where Joyce starts to doubt it, he's right.
Yeah.
And he walks back in and he says something to Murray, and Murray says, I suppose strawberry's not so bad. You know? So Hopper was right, and Alexei then opens up and starts talking about what they're doing. It becomes apparent. Murray's translating, like, he says something about a key, a gate being opened, and you see, like, all of a
They're
sudden
like,
it lands. Like, Hopper and Joyce are just like, oh no, we thought this was done. We thought this was behind us. Please no. And they call Dr. Owens, and obviously they've been given a code.
Yeah.
They've been given like a sequence that, okay, this is the number he called, this is the code, and Hopper's forgotten his, and he has to write it down. Murray's given him, you wrote down a secret code and wrote it in your wallet. This guy at the exchange, Joyce doesn't think he's translated the urgency enough. Like, our kids are in danger, Hopper. I don't think you've made it urgent. So Joyce rings them back. Like, this is a top secret facility, and Joyce is dressing them down like a parent-teacher conference.
Yep. Throwing comments around like nobody's business.
It is hilarious. Whilst that's going on, Nancy and the whole gang leave 11 to try and find Billy. She goes into Billy's mind, and we as the audience finally get to see a little bit of Billy's childhood.
Yeah.
He loved his mum. He
very
spent
close.
very close with his mum. Dad, not a good guy. Not a good guy
Although
at
we
all.
kind of got that from season 2.
We did get that. This kind of nails
Confirms
it. Not a nice guy at all. And yeah, while she's in Billy's mind and she's trying to do this, she tries to find the location of the mind flayer. And then we see that the mind flayer kind of traps 11 in her own mind for a moment, and uses the image of Billy to talk to her, and basically says to her, I'm building all this for you. I'm coming for you, and I'm going to kill everybody
Yeah.
and make you watch kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like really quite dark, really quite we then see that the flayed are being broken down and the creature is getting bigger.
So the mind fled before, because it was just like, I mean, it was still pretty powerful, but it was
Yeah.
essentially just like this little shadow.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to make himself in a physical form so he can actually properly beat 11.
Yeah, well we saw the actual what was it? The kind of the smaller creature, so 2 people melted down into one. This is now tens of people. So this creature is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And pretty like hundreds of rats as well.
Hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of rats, because there are a lot of rats, kid. There are a lot of rats. Episode 7 opens with the 4th of July fair. The mayor giving a big speech.
To try and distract from the whole Starcourt Mall thing.
He
because of the
is, yeah,
protests.
he is, and it's a big. I mean, the 4th of July in America is a big deal, especially probably still is now, but in 80s especially, small towns, stuff like this, really patriotic. And they're loving it, and everyone's having a great time. And you see the Wheelers, Mr. and Mrs. Wheeler, and young Holly, who was a baby when all this started. It's amazing how quick they grow up. They're on like a Ferris wheel, and she said she slipped the guy $5 so it stops at the top.
Yeah.
And Mr. Wheeler's like, oh, why have you done that? She's like, because these are the best seats in the house for the fireworks. And sure enough, fireworks start going up, but then little Holly spots something.
Yeah.
She spots all of the trees are moving, and she points it out.
And it kind of gets brushed off as, it's just like wind.
Yeah, no, just look at the fireworks, Holly. Look at the fireworks. Again, Mrs. Wheeler not paying attention to what's going on around her.
Mrs. Wheeler, Karen.
Come on, get on with it, Mrs. Wheeler. But we do see that, and then the monster is coming for 11 in the group. They're inside that hut, which is Hopper's hut. And they realise, and they go outside and they look and they see this creature coming down the road. Now, you pointed something out with this, which is really accurate, but this is kind of a TV thing, a movie thing. It happens a lot, which is like the forced perspective of how close something is.
Yeah.
They see this creature, and looking at how fast it's moving, I guess a minute, 2 minutes away.
Yeah.
They appear to have a good amount of time to prepare.
Yeah.
They start barricading all of the doors.
They're getting like weapons and blah de blah.
Yeah.
But how did they have the time?
I know, right? It's hilarious, but that's a TV thing. I think we can let them have that. It's fine. The monster does rock up. It does start wrecking the place, and 11 on her own again is kind of the one really fighting this creature, and she rips the thing in half, like its head. The part of it that looks like a head that's coming in for her.
But that's after she's been.
I was going to say, no, she does that, but it's got kind of, one of a better word, like tentacle kind of things, like coming smashing through all the walls. And one of them grabs her by the leg and is basically telling her, and everyone's holding on to her to stop her being taken out.
And like chopping it with axes.
But it bites into her leg. It absolutely bites into her leg. But yeah, she does rip it apart. And even though she's not killed it, she did rip it apart enough that they can all get away. But yeah, she does have this really horrific bite. They then head to like a supermarket. And at the supermarket, 11 is, there's blood, and she's in a bad, really painful. And Max kind of steps up like, look, I'm a skateboarder. I know what to do with wounds. We stop the bleeding. We do this. 11 seems to be okay. Everything kind of calms down in that moment.
Yeah.
But the one thing is worth pointing out is when they do leave there, we do notice her blood has stuff moving in it.
Yeah. But we also do get Dustin. They've got out of the Russian place.
Yeah.
They're at a cinema, the cinema at the beginning. Steve and Robin are a bit woo. And he's trying to radio his friends, and they pick it up, but he's got no battery, and it doesn't work.
You're absolutely right. So literally, whilst this is going on, separate to this, Dustin and we'll call it Dustin's team. Dustin's there.
It's like
the Scoop Squad team. They do go back. They manage to get Steve and Robin away from the Russians, back up to the surface, and they're hiding out in the Starcourt Mall.
Yeah.
The Russians are looking for them. They've infiltrated, the whole mall is Russian occupied.
Yeah.
So all the mall security are actually Russian soldiers and stuff. So they're closing down the place looking for them. They're trying to get out. We do have this kind of, like I say, this scene where Dustin's trying to use the radio. He does manage to make contact with Mike, and 11 hears it, but it's very garbled. They only hear some of the words.
Yeah.
So 11 in the group know where they are, the Starcourt Mall,
And they hear the word gate.
They hear the word gate, which is important because obviously everything they're going on, they think, uh-oh, Dustin knows. So we're going to reunite with Dustin, compare our notes. So they're heading to the mall as well.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and Alexei arrive at the fair.
I know what's happening.
Okay, all right, we're going to get through it together, okay? They arrive at the fair, and Hopper is attacked again by the Russians, but unfortunately, whilst at the fair, the attack also claims the life of the lovable and wonderful Alexei.
No!
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay.
Now, you've seen this series 3 times, 4 times?
4 times.
4 times, and how many times have you cried at Alexei dying?
3 times. I didn't cry the last time
You
because
didn't.
I didn't.
Very proud of you.
Thank you.
You did very well. But yes, it's very sad. I like
because
Alexei as well.
he's just like, he's been told that the games are rigged and he wants to play because he wants to be an American citizen. And it's really sweet, and he wins this like Looney Tunes toy, and he gets shot through the toy.
He does. It is really sad. He's killed by the Russian Terminator guy.
But the also sad thing, Murray's there looking off for him, saying, "Oh, Alexei's gonna be okay." By the time he comes back, he's dead. So he's died alone.
He has died alone.
That's so sad.
It is sad. I'm
gonna
sorry.
cry
No,
again.
don't cry on the podcast, please.
Okay.
I can't edit that out. So Alexei's gone, but he has previously told them what they need to do. He's told Murray all about the device, how to destroy it. And, Alexei, he's done his job. He really has. He's brilliant. Unfortunately, like I said, he is killed. Now, they do intercept Russian communication at this point, and Murray translates it as we've located the children in the mall. And at that point, Joyce and Hopper are just like, oh no. And Murray's like, you don't know it's your kids? Yeah, we do.
Although technically it isn't their kids, but their kids are going there.
Yeah. It's the kids they know of, definitely.
Yeah.
So we move into episode 8 now. 7 is a really great pace episode. Episode 8 now, I'm literally going to run through this like bullet points because so much happens. 11 has a creature in her leg. 11 rocked up at the mall, saw her friends surrounded by Russian guards, and threw a car at them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it would appear that in doing that, she's really exhausted her abilities. And she has this creature in her leg. Now, Jonathan heats up a knife to cut it out of her leg, and he's trying to reach into it with gloves to grab it, and it's holding on. Like, the creature's trying to hold on to, like, the bone in her leg. 11, the actress who plays 11, does a phenomenal job conveying the pain she's in, because, oh my god, that would be painful. And basically, we then see she uses her powers to rip it from her leg and throw it across the room. And then we see the thing get stepped on and squished, and it's Hopper.
And everyone's back together.
Everyone is together, and that's how episode 8 begins. And so we've got Hopper, Joyce, and Murray reunited with all of the kids together, and then a plan starts to form. So
but
basically,
it's also quite interesting. Robin, Murray, and kind of a bit Erica, although it's been explained to her. Literally, especially Robin, she's completely oblivious. She didn't know about Elle. Like
Robin freaked out by Elle's powers is funny.
Yeah.
Steve's like, catch up.
Yeah.
Catch up, Robin.
Oh, she's got superpowers.
Yeah. We get all this. I mean, the plan starts to form. We kind of get all of these amazing moments where they're all giving each other the bits of information they have, and all of a sudden it all becomes clear. The Russians are in Hawkins to open the gate. Because they've started doing that, the mind flayer that was left behind is active again. So they've gone through all of this, and they form this plan, and everyone's got their role to play. Dustin, Erica, Steve, and Robin head off to the radio that he built, which is at the highest point of Hawkins. They are going to use that as a powerful frequency to talk Hopper, Joyce, and Murray through.
Because when they were down there, radio signal wasn't working.
You got it, yeah. So they're going to use that powerful antenna to talk them through how to make their way through the Russian base under Starcourt Mall. The remaining group are going to try to run back to Murray's place.
Yeah, they just want to keep them safe.
But unfortunately, Billy's found them. And because Billy's found them, we know the mind flayer is not far behind.
Yep.
Billy disables their car they're going to run in, so they head back into the Starcourt Mall, leaving Billy outside just revving the engine of his car, generally being kind of intimidated. We do see a little scene with Billy in this where he's revving the engine, and I do feel like we see real pain on his face. I do think...
Like, if it was complete the mind flare, he would have run them over.
I think there's conflict there. I think Billy...
his, like, eyes are kind of...
He looked almost tearful, and he's like angry, like his face is... It's like a pained expression on his face. And I do think that... definitely he is trying to fight this, and perhaps that's why he's there revving the engine rather than being completely. I see them, psychotic. I attack them. Yeah. 11 is struggling with her powers. They've actually completely gone.
Yeah.
Now you have a theory on this, don't you?
I have a theory that it's something I never noticed before, and I've watched this series so many times. But the thing, it's since she had the thing in her leg and she had to rip it out. So what if it's like kind of. The thing was to destroy her, but what if, like, it wasn't necessarily to destroy her? I mean, they probably would have killed her, but their aim was to try and take away her, like, power, her abilities. Because her abilities are kind of, we don't really know much about it, but they're kind of from the Upside Down. Like, they're very...
We're not entirely sure. It's not really given us much explanation on that.
Although I think we're going to get that in season 4.
I do think so as well. I think Elle trying to rediscover her abilities is going to be a big part of season 4, but in this and in a really crucial moment, she's powerless, and the group, she's their main weapon really. Like we said, the creature arrives at the mall and it's huge. It's like a spider type creature, and it is hunting 11. They try to escape through an exit in the Gap, and it was called The Gap in the 80s. Very important.
The Gap.
The creature's literally hunting them. There's a moment because that was where Elle bought her new clothes from. Yeah. And there's a mannequin dressed like Elle is, and the thing rips the mannequin apart, thinking it's Elle, and it's like, oh wow, it is really hunting her.
And it is intelligent.
It is very intelligent, yeah. Now we see this group manage to get away from it, roughly just about. They get outside, but of course Billy's there, and Billy's going to attack them, and Billy drives right at them. Now Nancy's shooting at Billy, and again, Nancy's no chill. Nancy's not trying to save anyone. She's protecting herself and the group. And just as Billy's about to slam into them, Steve arrives back, bang, takes them out.
Because they saw, like, the mall was all, like, glitchy, they did. And they were like, ugh.
Yeah, they came back in the nick of time.
Time to be a hero, Steve.
Now, one of the things Alexei told them is the code is an equation called Planck's constant. So they get down there, and Hopper's trying to put this code in, and he realises that Murray doesn't know it. Murray's written it down, but Murray's written it down wrong. So they need to find out what Planck's constant is. Now, Dustin thinks he knows, but he's not sure. But he does know someone who definitely knows, and that just happens to be Susie Poo.
Susie!
So he tries to contact Susie using his Cerebro, and this time she does answer. Susie is real. And he's explaining to her about what's going on and everything, what's happening.
But he can't say too much. He's like, I've got to save the world, like evil Russians.
Yeah, she obviously thinks it's a bit of a game, being silly. And he says about switching frequency because there's interference. Now, the frequency they switch to is the one that everybody else is on.
Yeah.
So Dustin is now talking to her to get Planck's constant, hoping she will say it, so that way everybody will hear it and Hopper can just crack on. However, she wants Dustin to do a little something first.
Yeah.
Dusty Bun has to sing the song.
Yep.
He has to sing
Never-ending story.
Yeah, amazing. And that scene for me is the best scene.
It kills you every time.
Every single time, because there's so much in it. You get Murray reacting, you get Hopper reacting, but then you've got a car full of Steve, Nancy, and everyone running away from the creature, and you can see the creature chasing them down the road whilst all you're listening to is the never-ending story. It's hilarious. Dusty singing it. You also got Erica just staring at him. She reads out Planck's constant. Hopper uses it to get the code. That's the important thing. You then get the kind of, you hang up, and then Erica ends it like,
shut up.
Yeah, shut up. Hopper and Joyce manage to get to where they need to be. They are in there, they're taking control of the control room, and they are going to use the keys to shut down the device, which will close the gate. The creature, realizing that 11 is not with them because Billy spots 11, turns around and heads back to Starcourt Mall. At this time, they turn the car around as well. They were trying to draw the creature away from 11.
Yeah.
It's not worked. So they head back as well. The group, Billy has managed to catch up with them. He knocks out his sister. He knocks out Mike. He knocks out 11.
And takes her.
And takes 11 to the middle of Starcourt Mall.
Could she not just go, like, before she's knocked out, I don't have my powers anymore, I'm useless, don't kill me, please.
I don't think it's going to work. I don't think he's going to buy it at all, do you?
No. Worth a shot, though.
It would, I mean, for me personally, it would definitely be worth a shot. But yeah, so inside the Starcourt Mall, we then have this situation where Billy is laying 11 out like he's done before, and he says the line, just stay still, it'll only hurt a little bit, you know.
But what the Mind Flayer's doing, she's... sorry, the Mind Flayer is trying to take over 11 and maybe trying to take over her abilities as well.
I think so, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. I think that that's what's going to happen. But Billy, Elle kind of connects with him. Now, I don't know if this is her ability a little bit or if it's just her saying the words and Billy remembering, but she speaks to him about his childhood, mentions the memories that she triggered in him before, and you actually see physically the creature disappearing from him. It's kind of like she reaches him and he is able to take control of himself again.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he's Billy, and in that moment, Billy saves Eleven's life.
Yeah.
He literally sacrifices himself and tells her to run. I think for that, in that moment, we actually see the real Billy for the first time.
Yeah.
He was abused terribly by his father, and he took that out on
And
Max.
he tried to protect his mother as well.
Yeah, he tried to protect his mother, and in that moment, he protected out. He achieved it. He did it. But Billy is killed. Billy's dead. He's ripped, the creature punches straight through him. The rest of the group arrive back and they basically attack the creature with fireworks, which is what Lucas's plan was. And it does work to an extent of completely disorientating the creature. Yeah. The creature can't go after 11 or anyone because they're just constantly throwing fireworks at it. Dustin is screaming at the team to shut the gate. Yeah. And Hopper's fighting the Russian Terminator. He gets the upper hand, but Joyce has to make a decision. Joyce has to close the gate with Hopper in there. And he kind of nods to do it. Do it. And she does. And the machine overloads. And everybody in there, including Hopper, vanishes, disappears. The thing explodes. And the gate is closed. And when the gate's closed, the Mind Flayer, the creature, just collapses and dies. Yep. Everyone kind of takes a breath in that moment. Also, ironically, and I think this is probably very realistic as well, it's only at this moment that Dr. Owens arrives with the US Marines. Somehow, all of the Russians have managed to escape. Like, there is a massive base with probably hundreds there.
If not thousands.
And they're all gone. So
I've got a theory.
Bring your theory, kid. What's your theory?
We obviously know that in season 4, Hopper's alive. Spoiler, we see him in the trailer.
Yeah.
And so, but he's obviously in Russia. There's an after-credit scene at the end of this in Russia, and they're like, no, don't pick the American prisoner.
Yeah.
And they've got a creature from the Upside Down. Yeah. So my theory is that they have a gate in Russia which they've opened, and they wanted to open one in America so they've got an easy transport. Yeah. But they've just gone through the gate in America to get back to Russia.
To escape.
To escape, and that's where Hopper's gone, and they found him, they've captured him.
Yeah.
And so they capture,
Well, I hope season 4 answers the question for us, because at the moment it's a bit confusing. But yeah, the US cavalry does arrive. They take the base. They take Starcourt Mall. Yeah. And Dr. Owens is there. But we have a kind of quite a emotional scene where a few people are reunited. Yeah. But then, of course, 11's looking for Hopper, and he's not there. Yeah. We then have 3 months later come up. Yeah. And with the 3 months later, we get to see that Steve and Robin are, with the mall closed down, are getting a job at a video rental place. Robin goes to bat for him to get in the job. The Byers family are leaving, and 11 now lives with them. 11 is joining them, and they are leaving Hawkins. And we have a very emotional letter with Hopper's, a very emotional moment with Hopper's letter.
Like the heart to heart. And he's added stuff onto the end.
He has added stuff onto the end. Basically, Hopper, when he was trying to plan out the heart to heart, I think wrote out and just basically wrote his feelings to just kind of get it out. Which knowing Hopper's character, I think that's probably what makes it so emotional, because it's kind of like he would never, that's
say that.
Yeah, it's not a him thing to do. He couldn't say that, but he was able to write it down. So it meant he did feel it, even if he couldn't say it. Again, the acting, brilliant. She conveys the emotion in that scene great. Again, as a dad, someone older, it really spoke to me, that moment. It was great. As you just said, though, we do get the kind of after credit scene of in Russia. There's a hint that Hopper could still be alive, and we do see a demidog, and that is the end of season 3.
Although I will say, I want the demidog to be Dart from season 2, because I feel like that would just be like a great link.
It would be hilarious, because he had quite unique colourings from memory.
Yeah, and also he let Dustin survive, so if they ever see Dustin and it doesn't kill Dustin, we know it's Dart.
We know it's Dart. That's
so
true.
I'm just hoping.
We shall see, basically.
Yeah.
We shall see. Okay, so that is it. That is Stranger Things season 3 recap. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said right at the start, it's literally just going through bullet points, talking about the episodes, trying to pick out the key moments to walk yourself through it. I know there's probably bits we missed, and there's a couple of scenes I can think of straight away, but this is broad brushstrokes just to give you a real refresh ready for season 4. Season 4 will debut on the 27th of May on Netflix, where they will drop the first part of the season. And then the second part will be in
June 1st?
Yeah, it's in June. I can't remember the
Or maybe
exact
July
day.
1st.
It could be July 1st now today. Anyway, June or July. It's in the summer. So we will keep you up to date with that. Keep an eye on the Facebook page, facebook.com/stuffandthangspodcast. If you keep your eyes there, it's kind of like a news hub now for entertainment, for movies, for TV. Everything like this we'll post on there, so just keep your eye on that. We will be back once the new episodes have aired. We will then do a show talking about the first part of season 4, and then we'll do another show to round it off afterwards. So for everybody, we hope you've enjoyed the show. You all take care, and we'll be back really soon. Say goodbye to the lovely people, Phoebes.
Bye, everyone.
You lie. Why do you lie? I dump your ass.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.